an emergency, he admits his inefficiency. The successful leader must be the master of all details connected with his position. That means, of course, that he must acquire the habit of relegating details to capable lieutenants. So, being a leadership position doesn't ever mean that you're having to do everything by yourself, right? But it does mean that you have oversight, that you have the ability to recognize when you need to delegate something to somebody else or relegate a certain task to a lieutenant, like he says here, or to take it on yourself. So, does that mean, well, before I go on here, how many of you know Henry Ford or any of the stories about Henry Ford? He talks a lot about Henry Ford. Henry Ford was an individual that Napoleon Hill actually interviewed and learned a lot about. And Henry Ford wasn't known to be the most intelligent man in the world, meaning he didn't have all the facts, and if you sat him down in a room and were to sit there and grill him with questions, he probably would say he didn't know more than he would say he knew. And there was an interview once where someone was questioning him and said, people have told me that you're smart, but I don't see it. Something like that. I'm paraphrasing. I don't think you're really that smart, Henry, Mr. Ford. And he says, well, I don't maybe have all the facts in my head, but you see this, and they're in his office, and this is back in, I can't remember the day, when was this, the 30s or 40s or something like that, right? And he said, you see this little push thing on this little doohickey on my desk, and it was this little call box with a whole bunch of buttons, 8 or 9 buttons on it. He said, yeah, I see that. He said, well, at my fingertip, I have the greatest minds in our nation that I can call on at any given time. So whenever I have a question or someone has a question that they don't know the answer to, that I don't know the answer to, that I don't know the answer to, I can just push a button and get any number of geniuses on the phone with me. So who's smart? Basically that was a conversation. And so think about that. True leadership doesn't mean that you know everything. You're not going to know everything. True leadership means that you're willing to know enough of the details of what your position needs so that you can fill the gaps where you're not adequate or where you don't have the strength in that specific area. True leadership means that you actually surround yourself with even more capable people. And he talks about that here in a little bit. I'll get into that in just a minute. But you have the ability to understand and then organize all the details around that leadership position. Does that make sense? Okay. So if we don't know the details of how to be a leader in a specific position that we're looking to become a leader in, how do we become that leader? Yeah, mentorship. You find someone who is already a leader in that specific area, someone who already exudes those type of leadership attributes and capabilities. And you ask them, say, hey, I know that, I can see that you do this, that, and the other. What are the things that I'm not seeing that you do in the background? What are the things that you do behind the scenes? What are the things that you do after 5 o'clock hits and everyone else goes home? What are those things that you practice? Right? What are those details? Because I need to master those details. Number 2, and this goes back to what you said, Mitch, earlier. And this is, again, these are the 10 major causes of failure in leadership. Okay? Number 2 is an unwillingness to render humble service. So if you think you're too good for a task, if you think you're too good to do this, that, or the other, having an unwillingness to render humble service. And he goes on, he says, truly great leaders are willing, when occasion demands, to perform any sort of labor which they would ask another to perform. Anything. People are watching. I can promise you that. People are always watching what you're doing. They're always making up their own reasons as to why you're doing it. But they're always watching what you're doing. And if you're putting yourself up on this pedestal and you don't think that people are watching that, or if you don't feel like you have to get in the trenches and serve a little bit and help out in different areas, just realize that people are always watching it. And they're looking for the leader that's not afraid to get his or her hands dirty, that aren't afraid to do some of the menial tasks at times when necessary, but again, of course, also knows how to delegate when appropriate. It's funny, Napoleon Hill was a very God-fearing man as well. And he quote scripture here, the greatest among you shall be the servant of all. That's a truth for all leaders. Number 3, expectation of pay for what they know instead of what they do with what they know. So a true leader isn't going to expect pay just because you know something. Right? Just knowing information isn't good enough. Anybody can go online, can go on Google and find out answers to anything, right? You can get the 10 best secrets of everything if you want them. They're out there, right? So it's not about what you know, it's about what you do with what you know. It's setting that example that we talked about earlier. So if you want to fail in leadership, then continue having an expectation of pay just for what you know. If you want to be a good leader, no longer have that expectation to get paid for what you know, have the expectation to get paid for providing value based on what you know. Does that make sense? Number 4, fear of competition from followers. Yeah, these are the 10 major causes of failure in leadership. The fear of competition from followers. How often have you found yourself in a position where you're confident in yourself, but somebody comes along who's better than you at something? Right? Hopefully, if you're here within Limitless and you want to be a leader in Limitless, the best way to grow as a leader is to support and help those people who have amazing talent, no matter where it comes from. And even if their talent is a talent that you also have or wish to have. Yes, Marlene.
I think that also goes with not just being afraid that somebody will outshine you or something, but that you hold back, because it's fear of competition from followers. So if I lead too well, then my followers are going to surpass me. So it's like I'm going to hold back some of my secrets.
Oh man.
Yeah, hold back the secrets. You know, don't tell anyone this one. Like if you know how to fill a room really, really well, it's like, you know, oh, if I tell everyone else, then they'll all fill rooms really well. And then I won't be seen as the best person in filling rooms. No, for goodness sakes, share it. You know what I mean? The greatest leaders tell everything. They share it all. They just say, look, here's all the secrets that I've learned. Here's all the shortcuts that I've learned. Please implement these things. Yeah,
Can I just add to that?
Yes, please.
One of the biggest things that I see in leadership is everyone that I see who gives their all, who empties their vessel and gives everything that they know, those are the people that get to learn more.
Yeah.
You can't receive in a cup that's already full.
Yeah.
So if you're holding back and not giving, you've stopped the flow. You've damned yourself essentially.
Yeah.
Because you can't receive more because you're already holding on to so much.
I appreciate that. Yeah, go
Is that
ahead.
like hiding one of the pieces of the puzzle till it's all done but the one piece?
Yeah,
To make it look
That's
like
kind of reminds
because you want the glory.
I got the
I can finish this one.
I'm the one.
I'm the greatest because I got the last piece.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, it's interesting. As a leader, what are you really trying to do?
Get it finished.
You want it to be done, you want it to get finished, you want it to grow. And the only way that I can ever see, the only way to be a real good leader is by helping people to become better than you are. Right? Like that's the only way. Because me as a leader, if I can step up and be the very best leader that I can be, I can still only do so much. Like, there's still only so much that I can really accomplish on my own. So the greatest way for me to step up as a real leader is to help other people be even better leaders than I am. Right? It's to step in and support them, to multiply. And he says, Napoleon Hill says it here, he says, the able leader trains understudies to whom he may delegate at will any of the details of his position. Only in this way may a leader multiply himself and prepare himself to be at many places and give attention to many things at one time.
Wow, is that not limitless?
Yeah, it is. If I'm constantly just trying to keep it within myself, and I'm always the one that has to pull the trigger, you know, so to speak, and I never give people that power to pull that trigger, I can only pull one trigger at a time. And think about it. I mean, I'm talking about wartime here, right? So if I'm on a battlefield, and sometimes business is a battlefield a little bit, right? But if I'm on the battlefield and I've got all these troops lined up, a good leader will say, okay, I've trained you, you're all amazing, now fire. You all know how to do it. You're actually, some of you are even better than me, you're sharpshooters, right? And you're amazing, like your guys are awesome, like you're way better than I am because I'm not a sharpshooter, but you are. So the good leader says, okay, now fire. The bad leader will say, hold on, I gotta pull that trigger, and I gotta pull this trigger, and I gotta pull, oh, let me check.
gosh.
Did you aim it right?
Yeah.
Yep, no, we'll pull that trigger, no, you know? So leadership means that we're able to get over that fear of competition and really empower people to step into who they are. Number 5, lack of imagination. You want leadership to die, then stop imagining. Stop thinking outside the box. Yeah.
I have a perfect example
Please.
of somebody who used their imagination and who is seen as a leader, and that's Keely at the last Limitless.
Yeah.
She did some amazing things to just create more structure and systems within, like with the Pathfinders, to
Yeah.
make things flow a lot smoother and get more people into Pathfinder sessions and everything. And then also Heather Berry, she took it upon herself to assign out all the processes, like all the jobs that need to be done. Usually we would just call a bunch of team leaders to come and support, you know, at the last minute. She had that all signed before Limitless even started. And it was like, whoa, this made things move so much smoother. And it just elevated her to those two individuals to, in my mind, to the status of leader.
Yeah.
Just in that one, that one little thing that they changed elevated them to the status of a leader in my mind.
I love that. Be willing to create. Be willing to go in, step into the unknown for just a little bit. And the more you start to do that, the more you begin to step into the unknown, the more you allow yourself to be in a space of creation, the better leader you're going to be. Most people follow because they're unwilling. I'm going to say a very bold statement here. Most people are following because they're unwilling or unprepared to step into a place of creation. That's all. It's not that they can't, they're unwilling to. They're not ready yet to say, oh, I can create in this way, and I'm you know, whatever. Or, let me rephrase that. Either they're unwilling to, or what's already been created is something that completely speaks to them, and is completely part of them, right? But even within something that completely speaks to you, be willing to use your imagination. Like Keely, like Heather Berry, like so many others of you that are here listening on the phone and aren't. Limitless is only here. Well, yeah, the ones that aren't can't hear me. But I mean, there have been so many people that are here, and so many people that aren't here on the phone or in person also, who have contributed to the creation of Limitless, who have been willing to utilize that imagination and step up as leaders. And I will tell you right now, Limitless is not here because of 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 people. Like, Limitless is here because there is a massive movement of individuals who have said, this is where I want to hang my hat, this is part of who I am, this means more to me than me doing my own thing on my own. And all of those individuals have now come together, and we've been able to create something beautiful. And it's not done being created. As you very well see, it's constantly shifting and improving and molding to meet the needs of those people that we're looking to
And that's
touch.
because everyone in the beginning is so open-minded to something different.
Absolutely.
To grow and not just, no, this is my system, I'm
Yeah,
going to follow my system, and then it just kind of
Yeah.
goes away and then dies.
absolutely. Yeah, there's
It
flexibility.
keeps creating and getting bigger and stronger and better.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's inspirational.
Thank you. That was number 5, right? So
Yeah.
we're on number 6. Number 6 is selfishness. And I think we've touched a couple of these things, and some of these kind of overlap a little bit, but the leader who claims all the honor for the work of his followers is sure to be met by resentment. Always. So anytime that you're stepping into, there is a time to claim your power and to claim what it is that you've created. There's no doubt about that. And there's equally always a time to make sure that those who have helped you get there are recognized. Selfishness kills leadership. Selflessness grows leadership. Number 7, intemperance. Followers do not respect an intemperate leader. Moreover, intemperance in any of its various forms destroys the endurance and the vitality of all who indulge in it. What is he talking about here?
Is intemperance like the inability to control your emotions? Is that, I'm not sure what that means.
Yeah, I think intemperance is being too extreme in a lot of different areas. I think we often hear about intemperance when it comes to alcohol and things like that is often what it's associated with. But not managing yourself, not managing your emotions, flying off the handle, getting crazy. It's, being temperate is just that. It is the opposite, obviously, of intemperance. But being temperate is controlling yourself. It's regulating yourself. It's showing up in authenticity, but also in integrity. There's this weird space, and I don't know if any of you have seen this or felt it, but I've seen this in a variety of different avenues lately, where people argue this idea of what's the word? This idea of I'm being authentic.
Oh, I'm honoring myself.
To mean that I say everything and anything that comes into my
I'm
mind.
honoring myself.
Right?
Excuses.
Well, but they say I'm being authentic.
Yeah.
So in the frame up of authenticity, they'll cuss you out, or they'll kick you, or whatever. They'll talk bad about you or your experience or whatever it is in the definition of being authentic. But I think authenticity and true authenticity and the authenticity of a leader is one that's tempered. Meaning, yes, you show up and you be true to yourself and you honor yourself, but you also understand that you can use appropriate language and you can, say things in a way that isn't going to necessarily hurt someone's feelings. And you can still say truth, but do it in a temperate way. Yeah.
I looked up the meaning of it, and it's lack of restraint and excessive indulgence.
Yeah. Lack of restraint and excessive indulgence. So, again, one of the biggest causes of failure in leadership is intemperance. Number 8, disloyalty. And he's kind of funny. I love his dialogue, Napoleon Hill, because he'll go back and he'll say different things, and as he's bringing up other points. But he says perhaps this should have come at the head of the list. The leader who is not loyal to his trust and to his associates, those above him and those below him, cannot long maintain his leadership. Right? So as a leader, what does it mean to be a loyal leader? What does that mean? Yeah.
It means that you're thinking about more than yourself.
Yeah.
You're thinking about the good of the community rather than just the good of me.
Great. I like that. Yeah.
I think also not taking ownership for the team. A leader doesn't throw its team members under the bus. If I'm the leader and I haven't trained well enough or whatever, if the team isn't performing like I feel like it should, or somebody else feels like it should, then that's my responsibility.
Yeah, I love that. Taking the accountability, taking the responsibility for what the team is doing. Absolutely. Yeah.
A loyal leader doesn't leave when the war starts. I've seen so many leaders that when their tribe is in trouble, or when the tribe creates their own trouble, they'll back out. The loyal leader says, I'm not only willing to stay with you, but I'm going to get in the crowd and say, how can I serve? How can I help? How can we make this right?
Good. I appreciate that. All right, we've got phone number ending in 4535. I think that's Mitch again. Mitch, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to reiterate that owning the failures, not throwing your people under the bus, is so huge, because it's probably one of the most common failures as a leader that you see is that they're not willing to own up to mistakes, and they just throw people under the bus.
Yeah. I'm going to take this just a little bit of a different angle for just a second. But this is something that has helped me so much. I want you all to imagine for a second that a good friend of yours came up to you. Just think about this for a second. Imagine a good friend of yours. This individual comes up to you and with a lot of emotion a lot of maybe even anger and rage, they start accusing you of killing their brother. Let's just think about this for a second. What do you do? Now, let's take this a step further. You didn't do it, and you know you didn't do it. But this person obviously has it in their mind that you did. Right? So what do you do?
Try to defend yourself, maybe.
Okay, I think typically that's usually what we would do, right? No, hold on a second. I didn't kill your brother. But what happens usually when someone goes on the defense? Let's talk about war times for just a second.
Attack harder.
More resistance.
Yeah, they attack harder, right? So you say, no, I didn't, and obviously for whatever reason, they think that you did. So they're coming at you, and they're saying, oh, yes, you did. I heard from so-and-so who told me, of course you're going to defend yourself and say you didn't, but I know for a fact that you did because I've got all these other witnesses and whoever and whatever. So this is an interesting conversation. So what if that person came up to you and they said, hey, you killed my brother, I know you did it, and they're all angry and they're pointing the finger, and instead of defending yourself, you just took responsibility. Now hold on for a second, right? Just go with me for just a second. What if when that person came up to you and said, hey, I know you did this and I know you did that, you said, oh my gosh, maybe you're right. Like, I don't honestly remember, but you're obviously upset for a reason. And you may be right. Can we talk about this? Can we figure it out? What if that was the response? What would happen?
Totally different. Diffuses it.
Defuses the situation. There's not a whole lot they can do in attack if you're not disagreeing. Right? Again, in war, if you've got somebody with two people with swords, or one person with a sword and a shield, you both got a sword and a shield, and if I go to attack you, and you put up your shield, what is that doing? That deflects my attack, makes my attack seem useless, and it makes me want to attack harder and different.
Yeah.
Right? So instead of going at your shield this time, I'm going to come around the other way, try to get you a different way, and hopefully, if you're a good defender, you'll block it and do other things. But the point is, it's just going to make me want to attack more. It's just going to make me want to get after whatever it was, whether it was true or not. I want to defend my perception. Right? So leadership, I look at this often exactly the same way. I have an opportunity as a leader to either, when someone comes at me, I can either defend it, or I can take responsibility for it. No matter what it is. Think about in a marriage. How many of you have ever known anyone, been yourself, married? Okay, we all have, right? We all either know someone who has been married or we've been married ourselves, right? So think about in marriage. How many of you have ever been in an argument with your spouse? Raise your hand, just go ahead. Right? Everyone has been in an argument at some point or another with their spouse, right? So if you've ever been in an argument with your spouse, and I'll just speak from my own experience, when I'm in an argument, I almost always think I'm right.
Almost.
It's the argument.
Hence the argument. Almost, right? So I almost always think I'm right. But the interesting thing is I am typically not. When I'm in the space of arguing, first of all, whether I'm right or wrong, if I'm arguing, I'm not right. Because it doesn't do any good. So think about this. If in the space of a marriage, your spouse came up to you and said, hey, you did this, that, and the other, are they saying it for a reason?
Yeah.
Is there emotion behind it for a reason?
Yeah.
Yeah. And even if their perception is different than yours, there's a reason why they're upset. So instead of defending, what could you do?
Oh, you're probably right.
Yeah, holy cow, you're right.
Self-deprecation.
Yeah, no, not self-deprecation. It's not that. It's taking responsibility, and it's disarming. What my goal is to not have the fight. Ever. My goal is to not have the argument. It's to find out the reason for their being upset. And this, I'm talking about in any situation, not just a marriage. This is for anything. Find out the reason why they're upset, and is there something that I can do to find a solution?
I'm glad that he said that because there's definitely an energy that there's two different sides of that. You can totally back down because, oh yeah, I'm always in the wrong.
Yeah.
But there's also, it's like you can come at somebody you can come from complete confidence that whatever the real outcome is, I can handle it. That I'm okay with it.
And not only that, but in an argument, Do two people think that they're right about two different
Yes,
things?
and they probably are,
Thanks,
both of
too.
them.
Yeah, two people are coming together, both of them feel that they're right based on their perspective, otherwise they wouldn't be arguing, right?
Right.
So in that mode, I can honestly say, oh, you're probably right. Because in her mind, she is. Or if in anyone's mind, if anyone comes up to me and says, hey, you did this horrible thing in business, I could say, oh, there may be truth in that. What can we do can we talk about this? What happened? Let me hear your perspective. Yeah, go ahead.
Doesn't that boil down to first understand and then be understood?
Absolutely. Yeah, listen. All right, we're given 2 ears and 1 mouth, and if we would all use them proportionally, so much more would happen. So much more good would happen if we would learn to listen more and talk a little bit less. And that's for everything. That's a good leader learns to listen more and talk less. A good leader doesn't sit up here and talk always. A good leader is willing to hear and wants to know other perspectives and wants to understand those perspectives, because it's only from that space that then the leader can make better decisions as the leader, right? By acquiring more information, by getting as much as we possibly can. All right, we're getting close here. The whole conversation was about disloyalty, wasn't it? Were we at number 8? We went a completely different way, didn't we? Now we're at number 9, right?
Number 9.
Yes.
Okay, so number 9, emphasis of the authority of leadership. So the efficient leader leads by encouraging and not by trying to instill fear in the hearts of his followers.
Okay, will you read that again? What's number?
Yeah, emphasis of the authority of leadership. In other words, as a leader,
Because I said so.
yeah, if you're a leader and you're constantly saying, well, because I'm a leader, or because I have final say, or because obviously I'm the authority figure, yeah, or because I'm the dad, or whatever the case is. Yeah, if that's your stance, it's probably time to get a new stance if you want to remain in leadership. Even as a parent, if you say, hey, because I said so, how long does that last? Well, I mean, my oldest is 13 years old right now, and I've tried it for a long time to say the because I said so kind of thing. It doesn't work anymore. It's like, well, why, Dad? Well, let's have a conversation about it. Let me help you understand some of my perspective as to why I'm making this decision. This is why, right? Because I actually love you and care about you, and I know these different things because I've experienced what you've gone through, and And as a leader, sometimes it takes, again, the willingness to listen to their perspective, and someone may come up to you who is following you, who you are leading, and not understand why you're making that decision. Please don't make the mistake of saying because I'm a leader, or hey, because I know because I've been doing this for 10 years. No, respect them enough to help them and teach them. And by the way, what do you want anyway? You want that person to step up and be a better leader than you are too, right? And they'll never do that if you don't give them the learning experience, if you don't mentor them, if you don't take them under your wing at all, if it's always just because I'm the leader. Yeah.
I have a hard time accepting guilt that wasn't mine.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard enough for me to accept the guilt that was mine, but
Yeah.
I'm having a hard time with saying, well, yeah, I did it when I didn't.
Yeah.
How about something like, help me understand why you think that?
Yeah.
Rather than, yeah, I'm guilty.
Yeah.
Because then, I don't know if that would diffuse it.
Yeah.
Because now, you've admitted it, so you are guilty.
No. So yes, I think you misunderstood me a little bit.
Yeah, it's
No,
not so
that's
much
okay.
admitting it, it's like, oh, well,
It's not the admitting. It's admitting that that's a possibility.
it's a possibility.
Yeah.
That's what I mean by. So there's this. Can I quote some scripture for a second? Is anyone going to be offended if I do?
No.
Okay, star 6 and tell me you're offended if you are.
I'm offended. You need a break.
There's a scripture that says, agree with thine adversary while on the way,
Yes.
lest he, consider you. I can't remember the exact scripture, but I never understood what that meant until I feel like recently I started to understand this conversation. There's another scripture I want to bring in real quick, so please forgive me if you don't like scriptures.
I love scripture.
Okay, good.
I love scriptures too.
But there is a story in the Book of Mormon of a group of people called the Anti-Nephi Lehis. And I never understood what this story was for either. But I believe it's about marriage, honestly. I believe the whole story is about marriage. Because what happened? there was a group of people who had covenanted with Heavenly Father, with God, that they would bury their weapons of war and never take them up again. Their enemies came, were planning and plotting war, and they knew it. Because they believed that these people, their ex-brethren, their ex-brothers, were horrible in taking all the things that they should have been theirs, and all these different things, and all this birthrights, whatever, right? And so they were angry, and they wanted to come and kill them all. Now the Anti-Nephi Lehi said, well, we buried our weapons of war, we've made a covenant, we are not going to take them up again. So what happened? Well, their enemies came up against them, and what did they do?
They killed the battle.
They prostrated themselves on the ground, it says. They laid down on the ground and accepted what it was that they were attacking with. Now they may not have said words like, yes, we're guilty, or yes, whatever, but they didn't defend at all. There was absolutely no defense. They laid down, prostrated themselves, and allowed these Lamanites to come upon them. So what was the outcome?
More were converted than what was killed.
Yeah, there were 1,004 or 5, I believe, if I remember correctly, that were converted that day. More than were killed. So, first of all, the ones that were killed, I mean, this is now getting into faith, but I believe those people that were killed in this story went up to heaven. Like, they made the right choice. Could they have defended themselves justifiably? Of course they could have. No one would have faulted them. No one would have said, hey, you're protecting your families and your own lives. Yeah, you can take up your weapons again. I know you promised, but this is different. People are coming and killing you. I bet even God would have forgiven them and said, sure, that's okay. Maybe. I mean, I'm not him. Who knows, right? But they didn't. Instead, they said, we'll take whatever you think that we're in the wrong, and okay. We're just gonna accept that whatever. Like they didn't argue. They didn't defend anything. And because of the lack of defense, their attackers completely stopped. And not only did they stop, but they were also converted. And not only were they stopped and converted, but then they also went out and started helping to convert others, to bring faith to other people, right? So it's not about we're talking about taking the responsibility of the team and all that kind of stuff. This is what this was really talking about. It's not that, of course, if one of my teammates doesn't do something right, that I could say, oh, I did that. No, but it's saying, oh, that happened because of me, because I'm training them. And this is a failure that I'll definitely accept, because I don't look at failure as failure. I look at failure as learning. And absolutely, I want to learn from this, so I'm going to accept that responsibility of learning, of this learning process. I'll accept that. Yeah.
So number 9 is emphasis of the authority of leadership, and to me that also says that you're not leading by example.
Yeah.
That I'm the leader, and so you guys are the ones that are doing all the work.
Sure.
And I'm just,
Just
I
with your
still
bullhorn?
have the authority. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Well, I think it's important also to remember a key factor of that story that you just shared, and that is that to prostrate oneself
Uh-huh.
is the epitome of humility.
Yeah.
It makes sure that everyone around you knows that you don't set yourself up above them.
Yeah. So how about if someone who sees you as a leader comes up to you and says, hey, you didn't do this, that, and the other, or whatever, you just say, that's a great perspective.
It's like, oh, that's interesting.
Like, wow, that's amazing. I honestly never thought about it that way before. Thank you so much for bringing that up. And by the way, you have a knack for bringing up things that I don't see. I need you in my leadership. Why don't you come up and help me help everyone else see things that I'm not also seeing? I mean, is there a way to do that where you can now create that person and put them in a space of leadership, and maybe they can step up and show up even better for you, right? So there's just other options. Number 10. Number 9 was, so again, going back to the authority, we already talked about that enough. I think we're good. Number 10, and this is sort of the same thing, emphasis of title. The competent leader requires no title to give him respect of his followers. The man who makes too much over his title generally has little to emphasize. Doors to his office of the real leader are open to all who wish to enter, and his working quarters are free from formality or ostentation. There's a great example of this. If anyone has ever, there's a book, let's see, can't remember now the name of it, something of happiness. It's Tony Hsieh, who is the CEO of Zappos. Delivering Happiness is the name of the book. Tony Hsieh, Zappos as an organization, as a company, operates differently than a lot of companies. Tony Hsieh had a cubicle in the very center of his work. He had a cubicle, same as everybody else. And his cubicle didn't have a door on it. It was just a cubicle. And so everyone could come around, and if they had questions, if they had concerns, if they had anything, they could just come and, hey, Tony, hey, President, can I ask you a question? Can we shoot the breeze? Can I, whatever, can we go back and forth? And that ability of him as a leader to not lean on any title or not lean on any pomp or circumstance or not, have the corner office with the whatevers and everything else is, like, what an amazing form of leadership. He opened himself up. He said, yeah, we're building this company together. I can't do it by myself. And yeah, I'm leading the company, but man, all of your input is so crucial. And not only did it give him a pulse on the company, what happened there, but it gained him the respect of his entire company. Everyone wants to go to work for Tony Hsieh because of who he is. Zappos is one of the greatest companies to work for right now because of his leadership and what he's done there. So, any other comments, questions, anything? We're here near the end. Yes, Wileen.
I'm going to come up here because I want to make sure everybody hears this. As guardians, I know this is about regionals, but I just have to share this because I know a lot of people that are leaders and our facilitators within the regionals are also working towards certification and angel status. And when we as guardians help people through their certification, there is a piece that is over and above and beyond just checking off that I can do a breakthrough. And Chris has called it the X factor. And it's always, people are like, well, what else can I do? What's the next step? What do I need to work on? And it's been a little bit hard to define because there's kind of just like a feeling that we have sometimes. And we as guardians, we always are together, we're always unanimous on our decisions. And if all four of us can't feel good about the advancement, then we'll give them an opportunity to practice a little bit more. As you've been listing these off, this is the X factor. This is what we're looking for. And so I hope that you all wrote this down, and especially those who are in certification. If you didn't, maybe you can Google it and find the 10 major causes of failure in leadership. Those people who have control over, have mastered these steps, those are the factors that we're looking for. That's the X factor. So I didn't realize it until
Awesome.
you listed them off.
I appreciate that. I mean, I think really, as you're talking about that and certification and becoming, different positions, I mean, there are certain things within Limitless, it's just like any other company. When I hire for a position, we put out the requirements of what we're looking for, but then there's always something else that we're looking for that's hard to really put your finger on, right? There's personality traits. There's an ease with individuals that you're looking for. And for example, I remember when I posted the job for what Carson now does, the head of our digital media and all that kind of stuff. And I interviewed many people for that position. And when I interviewed some people that were a lot more qualified than Carson, but Carson was the right fit. You know what I mean? And so anyway, I'm glad that we've got a little bit more of a clear, defined maybe things that we're looking for in that leader. My invitation for all of you is to step in as a leader, just right now. Like, don't worry, forget about whatever happened in your past or who you were in your past, and decide today that you're going to be a leader. And step into it. Any of the attributes that we talked about here, or some of the failures that we've talked about here, that you feel like you could improve on, begin today. Don't wait for tomorrow. Begin today to have that conversation with yourself. I've gotten clear that life improves the more we converse. Like period. The more we're willing to open up our mouths and talk, the more we improve. And that's in everything. The more that we're willing to have conversations about our wealth, the more our wealth will improve. The more we ignore it, the more it will stay where it is. The more that we have conversations with our spouse, the more that relationship with our spouse will improve. The less we do it, it'll atrophy. It will go to nothing, right? That's what happens. The more we're willing to have conversations about leadership and stepping in as a leader and doing these things and acquiring these attributes, the more we will become that. The less we do that, the more we won't be. So it's all about conversing. It's all about hearing and listening, and even with ourselves and our personal power. If you're in a space where you haven't claimed your own personal power for a long time, the reason why you haven't done it is because you stopped talking to yourself. I promise you, like, this is 100% foolproof. I've tested it everywhere. If you stop talking to yourself and allowing yourself to listen truly to yourself, we all do it. There are times when we don't listen to ourselves. We receive intuition and feelings and we decide to stop listening to ourselves. And therefore, our relationship with ourselves suffers. We step out of personal power, or we give that power away to somebody else or something else. Same thing with everything. So if you want to improve as a leader, begin having the conversations. Begin talking to yourself about how you're an amazing leader. Go, I'll say it again, get this book if you don't have it, please. Make it part of your library and reference it all the time. This is not the Bible, nor is it Scripture, but I will tell you there is a lot of truth in here. And it is something that I reference all the time. I'm constantly in this book, and this is a new one that my wife just gave me as a gift, and I'm underlining it, and like, use it. If you want to be a better leader, if you want to show up and you want to have more positive influence over people, then begin doing the things that it takes to be a good leader. Begin acquiring the attributes. If you don't know what that looks like, there's a lot of them in here, or go to people that you see as leaders and ask them, what are you doing? How do you do it? How do you show up, and what has that done for you? Well, you know, just ask. If you've got blind spots, seek out mentorship. And that's, I think that's all I've got for today. So thank you, everybody. Appreciate you being on the call. One more thing, call to action that I want to make sure I hit. We've got several events coming up in December. If you're going to Mexico, this is the perfect time for you to invite people to some of these events while you're gone. By the way, we've got this weekend, we've got a regional coming up in Murray. We've got next weekend a wealth intensive, which is, by the way, a 2-day wealth intensive. It's gonna be here at corporate office. It's also free. Normally those are $99 for a guest. This month they're going to be free. So anyone that you want to register and come, we're taking care of the cost on that. Okay. So take advantage of that. And then we've got another regional happening the next weekend, December 16th and 17th. Right? Is that correct? 16th and 17th.
Yes. Yep.
Here in Utah County. Be part of all those. If you want to step in as a leader, invite people to all of those. Have them come. My goal is to pay as many people as I can while they're vacationing in Mexico. And I can only do that if you invite people to come to the events that are happening while you're gone. So, that being said, everyone have a fantastic week. We'll talk to you next week. Next week it is going to be here as well. And then starting the week after that, so starting the 13th, we'll be meeting at 11 a.m. at Chris's house. I will send an email out to everybody so that you have all that information. If you haven't registered to be part of this Limitless leadership training, then please register. We'll send the link out in the email. So please register for that just so we can communicate specifically with you as well. Okay, thanks everybody.
Thanks, Stephen.
Have a great evening.
Bye.
What was the first one? I couldn't catch how it was worded.
Oh, that's okay. Let me grab that for you.
Inability to organize details.
Yes, thank you. That's exactly it.
That's why it is.
Inability to organize details.